Hello and welcome to this edition of Big Fish Small Pod for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. And if you are new to the Small Pod, here we'd like to give you all the information about the Marlins for that particular day, all season long, in 10 minutes or less. And Marlins fans, if you are also a college baseball fan, you would know that the College World Series is approaching. And with also the College World Series approaching means the MLB Draft is approaching also. And on this episode of Big Fish Small Pod, presented by MPT College Consulting, I will give two players that I think the Marlins should potentially target in terms of coming into this draft. We will have more episodes of Big Fish Small Pod with the draft as it approaches. I will bring on some guests to give a little more detailed expertise on who they think the Marlins should, maybe, or will end up drafting. But here I'm going to go ahead with two guys. One ACC Player of the Year, and the other was one of the top utility players in the ACC. Let's start off from Florida State University, the ACC Player of the Year, Cam Smith, the third baseman from Florida State. Cam Smith has just been a dominant player so far this season with Florida State, has just been off to such a tear in this entirety of the season, getting named ACC Player of the Year, and has just been hitting the cover of the baseball, and it's been doing so year after year. Starting off this season, you look at his stats in 254 at-bats, 16 home runs with 56 RBIs, and here's the real kicker, 402 batting average for a 1.174 OPS, 677 slugging, and basically a 500 on base percentage at a 497. Cam Smith has just been incredible for Florida State this season, and someone that the Marlins should potentially target. As you would notice a trend with these two players, they're both college bats. This is what the Marlins have desperately needed, especially guys on the third base, infield, and utility as well. This is who the Marlins have needed. I understand you can always go pitching, but they did that last year, going with Noble Meyer and Thomas White, two prep arms. So in my opinion, I believe they're already set in terms of having arms of the future. And the Marlins need bats now. They need someone who can maybe offset what Jacob Berry was supposed to be. And with Cam Smith, I like him a lot more than Jacob Berry when he came out as a prospect, just because the way his ability to hit the ball, and it's just also with his arm. He has a 60 grade arm, 55 fielding grade from MLB Pipeline, has just been really incredible. 6'3", 220 pounds, really has the strength. Someone who could maybe give you 20, 25 home runs up in the big league if you really want to go into that frame and really add on strength with his raw power, that he could do that. He really struggled if you want to go back to his freshman year, but that really proves to me that he's able to do it year in and year out and improve from one struggling year, then hitting 300 his sophomore, in the Cape Cod leagues, and then coming to this season with FSU hitting above 400, which again in college maybe translate to about maybe hitting 280 around that, in the pros 300. But really, again, for Cam Smith in the ACC, which is a challenging conference, again, not as much as the SEC, but still the ACC is one of the top conferences in college baseball. He has the speed. He did run better as the year progressed, getting up on the base path. But with someone who, with his ability, and also going back to the Cape Cod League, which is one of the top leagues for summer baseball, for these top prospects, finishing up as the most outstanding prospect, pro prospect as well, in the Cape Cod League with a close to 1,000 OPS, has just been really great for FSU, and I think he could translate very well to the Marlins. Again, I don't think he will need that much seasoning, maybe a year and a half, maybe two in the minors until you can fully transition him into the majors, then eventually give him that third base role for the Marlins long term. So for me, Cam Smith, I think it will be a great pick for the Marlins. I believe he could go earlier, so he could be someone that could sneak into the top 10, maybe fall where he's supposed to land around the 13, 12, 14 range. But if he can fall to the Marlins at 16, I believe it will be a great pick. Might have to go a bit over slot to grab Cam Smith, as he's only a sophomore, and he could go back to college if he chooses to. But if the Marlins do grab him, I think this is the guy that instantly becomes maybe the best hitting prospect in the farm system. His ability to play third base, his amazing cannon for an arm, especially on the hot corner, I believe will be a great pickup for the Marlins if he does fall to them. And the second player I have, again from the ACC, and this is more a utility player for the Marlins. This is Seaver King out of Wake Forest. You want to look at Seaver King's stats and to see a little bit what he might bring to the table, coming from the Demon Deacons. 21 years old, just as Cam Smith is, so still very young there. Their first year in being eligible for the draft. And with Seaver King, 308 batting average, slugging .577, on base percentage of .377 for a .954 OPS. 16 home runs, 64 RBIs, 11 steals, 34 strikeouts to 25 walks. So with Seaver King, it's more, again, I mentioned utility player. That is really what you're going to get there. Someone who can really play the hot corner as well as some in the outfield. And if you look at his pipeline, the power might not be there. Again, had 16 home runs. Comparing to Cam Smith, and you mentioned to me, I mentioned earlier how Cam Smith has really good raw power, I believe, with that frame he has. Again, with Seaver King, he's only 6 feet and he's less than 200 pounds to Cam Smith, 6'3", 220, who can, with that frame, you can easily get him to maybe 230 around there. And with Seaver King, probably around 210, 205 is the really sweet spot where you want to get him and add some muscle to his frame. But 16 home runs is maybe what you're hopefully pushing for him in the pros. Maybe potentially 20 if it's a really strong season for Seaver King. But what you're really getting here is his defense. You're getting his run ability, which is 65 grade. Again, 11 steals that you saw there. In the ACC, I believe he has more potential than that in the pros. I believe they go with the Marlins willing to have players steal the bag. I believe with Seaver King, that's a guy who could easily get the Marlins in the professional system when he comes up. Easily 20 20 stolen bases a season. And, I did mention his weight, 195, and want to look back a little bit to when he first came in to college. I believe he was at 170, so he added around 20, 25 pounds just to get him here where he's at right now, to close to 200, 195. But the way that his bat is, the way he has that really great speed for his bat, I think, again, like 20 home runs might be the peak for him. But if he can give you anywhere from 10 to 15 home runs a year, you take that easily with his above average speed and his really great arm strength. And he is a versatile defender. When looking at Wake Forest, he played all over the field. He played center, he played third base. He saw action at short and second base. This is another guy that you could potentially convert into a shortstop. And I know he's here ranked as a third baseman. Draft lists have him as a third base, even as an outfielder. But the Marlins could potentially draft this prospect, draft Seaver King, and maybe move him to shortstop. The Marlins have desperately needed a shortstop, it seems like, forever. And with Xavier Edwards, they're not really sure if they want to keep him at second base. Do they want to give him more reps at shortstop? And if they don't want to do that, I believe Seaver King, you can bring him in, just transition him instantly into shortstop. He does have experience there. He has the speed for it. He has the fielding for it, especially if you're playing that many positions in the ACC. So for him, it would just need to be polishing up a bit. Again, when he was in Wake Forest as a shortstop, it was about average, about above average for what you would see from an ACC shortstop. But if he could polish it up a bit, and the Marlins can do a little bit of tweaking to his game defensively, I think this is someone that instantly can give the Marlins a shortstop of the future. Again, may not be what a current pro day shortstop maybe with 25, 20, 30 home runs that we're seeing nowadays, but this is a guy that can easily be a leadoff guy for the Marlins at shortstop and give easily 10, 12, 15 home runs a season with potentially getting up to stealing 20 bags a year. But he's really solid at that shortstop, outfield, third base position. So with Seaver King, he ranks, I believe, just above Cam Smith, mostly for his defense and what he could do around the base path. These two guys, I think the Marlins should really target for this upcoming draft with Cam Smith and Seaver King. 2 third basemen, 1 ACC player of the year, 1 utility player. I think these guys, if they're on the board at 16, you take them. And that's going to do it for this episode of Big Fish, Small Pod. As always, we are presented by MPT College Consulting. That's mptcollegeconsulting.com for all your college consulting needs. As always, go fish.